This is an excerpt from our entertainment podcast / fake morning show, Couch Potato Saga in the Morning. Find us through the links in the description.
Just as a fair warning, this will have spoilers in it because I don't think there's a way that we can do this without spoilers.
Yeah, though this is for the first six episodes.
We're not talking about the whole show. We're just talking about half of the show. I think next week we're going to finish off and talk about the rest of it.
Yeah. You've watched all of the show.
I've seen the whole thing at this point, but this is only the first 6.
Yeah, I have not because busyness, but yeah. Jessica Jones is a show about a sarcastic, hard-drinking private investigator lady with PTSD. Also, she has super strength.
Yes.
Yeah. The source of her PTSD is a man called Kilgrave, played by David Tennant, who can use his voice to command anyone to do anything he wants. And she thinks he's dead, but he resurfaces to torment her. Also, Luke Cage is in there somewhere. What did you think?
So this show is related to Daredevil.
Yes.
As in they're going to cross over at some point.
I don't really foresee any Daredevil spoilers showing up here, but I guess fair warning, we're not going to avoid them if they come up.
Yes, but the Daredevil has very little to do with this show, though, so we'll probably not. But if you haven't watched Daredevil, go watch it. It's a good show.
I like Daredevil better, honestly.
Yeah, me too. So that's kind of where I was getting at. This show is I've enjoyed this show, and I enjoyed these first 6 episodes. It's noticeably weaker than Daredevil.
My division about this is I think Jessica Jones is a lot more ambitious than Daredevil is, because Daredevil, while it's very well done, is kind of just the superhero origin movie stretched out across 13 episodes of television.
Yeah, it's just a very well done superhero origin movie with very well directed fight scenes.
So I think while Jessica Jones tries to do more, I don't think it's as successful at what it does as Daredevil is. So that's kind of why I like Daredevil more. And before we were reviewing this show, I just went back and watched an episode of Daredevil, and it's almost kind of night and day, the production value on these movies. Maybe not the production value, but how well they pull it off. Just that show is just shot so much better. It looks so much better. It's written quite well.
Yeah, Daredevil looks almost like movie quality. This doesn't really.
I would say Daredevil looks better than a lot of Marvel movies, honestly.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy that's how...
it might look better than all of them, now that I think about it.
It might. It's kind of crazy how much, especially comparing it to Arrow, because Arrow is a very similar show, but Daredevil looks so much nicer than Arrow.
But, though, I guess the thing about Jessica Jones is I felt like I got a better sense of the city of New York than I did in Daredevil.
I would agree with that, and there were some more things that fleshed out that I could see being relevant to the overall plot, like you got Luke Cage in there. Yeah,
I guess the key thing with Jessica Jones is it's this woman going around doing her job on the streets of New York, whereas Daredevil is kind of going around seeking out the bad guys.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know, something about Jessica Jones feels a little more lived in, I guess, than Daredevil does.
It does. The one thing I do find kind of odd, and about these Marvel Cinematic Netflix shows in general, and I'm hoping, I don't know, it feels like these Daredevil and Jessica Jones, they don't really cross over a lot, and I feel like they almost need to.
If you remove the handful of references to the Avengers, you could kind of forget that this is actually part of the same universe.
Yeah,
even with just Daredevil.
You don't necessarily need them crossing paths, but the fact that there's a visual anti running around this city that is a huge, huge deal in Daredevil's show, and the fact that it's not brought up at all here is just odd.
Yeah, it's even maybe you could just have a newspaper somewhere, and that would help immensely, I think.
Or you hear a passing news story or something.
Yeah.
Just something on TV. They don't need them running into each other, but it kind of needs to be mentioned.
On the other hand, I kind of do like how isolated the show feels a bit.
I do too, and it does.
It raises the stakes quite a bit when you feel like it's just these people are the only ones who can deal with this.
Yeah, we're not going to have Captain America come in and save us and Iron Man come in and save us.
Yeah, you can't call Daredevil up on the phone and be like, hey, let's talk about this Kilgrave guy.
the villain of the show. His powers are kind of he's got these very mind controlling powers. Essentially, he can tell someone what to do, and they do it no matter what. And it's kind of freaky. You don't know who's being controlled by him or not, and that's always kind of a looming threat in this movie where you don't really trust background characters even.
That sort of ties it to Daredevil a bit for me, where Daredevil sort of did a similar thing where you weren't sure who Kingpin bought.
Oh yeah, I guess that was kind of true.
So I wonder if that's going to be a running theme for all these shows, or if that's just a coincidence of trust no one.
Yeah, because I do remember that was pretty heavy in Daredevil, where you weren't sure like which cops weren't dickwads, and in the show, it's you don't know which of you has been told what to do by Kilgrave. Yeah.
I guess to sort of continue with the comparisons, the show is structured a bit differently in that it more overtly concerns its overarching plot, whereas Daredevil, while it definitely had that, it also did have specific episodes of like, this is what's going to happen in this episode, whereas Jessica Jones is more the big picture.
Jessica Jones is pretty much a 13-hour movie.
Yeah, and there are parts of it where even just from these initial 6 episodes, I am worried that it's going to become apparent that it didn't need to be that long. But
I've heard that quite a bit, and yeah, from this initial 6 episodes, you can kind of see it.
Again, it focuses on Jessica sort of dealing with Kilgrave and the way he's come back to affect her life, and I think she's a very interesting character. Like, yeah, I think that's what. Again, I think that's sort of why it's more ambitious than Daredevil to me, is because I think she is a much more complicated character than anyone in Daredevil was.
Yeah, she tried to be a hero, almost immediately got just taken by Kilgrave.
Yeah.
And then she just did some awful, awful shit under his control, and she's struggling with if that was her.
And pretty much everybody who has ever been controlled by him struggles with that same thing.
Yeah,
because the way his power works is he makes them want to do it.
Yeah, like that's the whole thing. Is it's not you moving without you wanting to. You want to do it, like no matter what it is. Even if like in the back of your mind you're like, no, you want to do this. So it's a very big running theme of the show where the characters aren't sure like if they are actually guilty of this or not, because Kilgrave made them do it, but at the moment they wanted to do it.
And she's also like very, I don't know, independent, I suppose, whereas like she has to rely on her supporting cast, but she's the one with the power. She's the one generally getting shit done, and she kind of is hesitant to rely on those other people.
Yeah, her powers don't really help her too much, honestly. Like you have the super, it makes her so she's able to hold her own in fights. But as far as Kilgrave goes, it doesn't help that much.
How do you think Kristen Ritter does portraying her?
I enjoy her performance quite a bit. I think she's one of the stronger actors in this movie.
I think she started off a little shaky, but
yeah, I do think so too. But honestly, like of everyone's performance, she's probably in my top like 3 or 4, probably top 3. I ended up like quite liking her as a character, and I do find her very interesting. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of her whenever they have this crossover coming up.
I think the acting can get a little iffy, and it could get a little iffy in Daredevil too, with like Foggy.
Yeah, which characters did you notice in this one?
Most of the supporting cast, like not even necessarily like the supporting cast, but pretty much any side character, anyone who doesn't have a great deal of importance, doesn't do the best job.
I don't know. I really enjoyed Malcolm.
Well, I mean, like I consider him one of the more integral side characters, so I think he's fine.
Which one specifically?
Simpson is weird.
Oh yeah, I will. Yeah,
one of a cop who's been controlled by Kilgrave. I don't know. He has trouble conveying emotion, and I can't tell if that's part of his character or not.
Yeah, that's fair, because his performance throughout this movie is very odd. Show. Why do I keep referring to this movie?
On the other hand, there are some really good performances, like David Tennant as Kilgrave.
Yeah, David Tennant is like out acting everyone, and
oh yeah, he is outright the best actor in this show, and
Yeah, like
it's not close.
Yeah, like hands down. It's not even that. There are some good performances in this show, but David Tennant is just godly.
Like every scene, he pretty much just takes over.
Yeah, I really enjoy him in this show. Like, dude's just killing it. Him and his accent, just I don't know. Like I've had fun with him a lot.
I'm glad they didn't try to make David Tennant do an American accent, because that wouldn't have worked out very well.
No, yes, that accent is smooth. That British accent he's got going on, like, man, it's fun. I just want to hear him talk.
You can sort of, like, while you realize that his powers are what's compelling everyone to do things for him, you can also kind of see it in his performance a bit, where you can kind of buy people just doing things for him in general.
Yeah, dude seems charming, like very charming, and
like he doesn't feel overtly evil, I don't think.
Yeah, and like there's some stuff where he says we're obviously it's just like, oh shit, but then there's other things you're just like, yeah, fuck, I'd do it for him.
I think Luke Cage is also pretty good.
Yes, Mike Coulter, I believe, is the actor's name. I think we talked about this beforehand, but yeah, this show really Mike Coulter's performance in the show really made me excited for a Luke Cage solo show. So yeah, good job on that.
I guess the other major character is Carrie-Anne Moss, who you might know as Trinity from The Matrix, and I'm going to refer to her as Trinity because I can't remember her character's name.
Hogarth.
I'm going to call her Trinity. So Trinity is the lawyer for Jessica, who kind of hires her out to do things at points. And they have really attempted to make her a major player, and it just isn't working.
No, she's not.
Like they show a bunch of shit about her divorce that she's going through.
Yeah, and it feels so background.
And it's very clear the only reason we're being shown this is because it's going to play a part later somehow. Yeah. Because otherwise, who gives a shit?
Yeah, they keep bringing it up, and I'm just like, I don't care about your divorce, Jesus.
And I think they're trying to disguise it as like character development, but like she is not a big enough character to warrant that. And so, I don't know. It's cool that they got like a gay lady in here, but
yeah, I thought it was kind of neat too. The whole thing with hers. Yeah, she's cheating on her wife with her secretary. Yeah, young secretary.
Yeah, this show is actually kind of pushing a lot of the boundaries you might not expect it would for how mainstream the Marvel universe can be.
Oh yeah, no, I thought that too. Just you got Hogarth is lesbian, and you got quite a bit of that in there, and then immediately sex scenes,
really graphic ones, actually.
Yeah, like
you don't see
anything,
like,
but
whereas Daredevil would have been rated R if it was a movie for the violence, this would probably be rated R for the sex if it was a movie.
This is the sex aspect of it. The violence happens, but it's not major, and it probably wouldn't give it above like, oh, actually no, there's a part in the movie that would definitely get this an R. But I mean, a show that would definitely get this an R like later on. But it's usually pretty tame, like as far as violence goes. But damn, those sex scenes.
Yeah, they really go for it.
Yeah, you're not, you don't see anything like as far as like the fuck, how do I
nudity?
Yeah, nudity, I guess. Yeah, nudity. That's the word I was trying to think of. But they're boning.
They are indeed boning.
They are boning in various positions
and breaking beds in the process. There's also like her and a black guy, which is another thing. Like,
her and a big black man. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, Jessica Jones, and they also talk about abortion in the show. So like Jessica Jones doesn't give a fuck about any taboos here, which is awesome.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed that.
It makes me appreciate the show and kind of wish it was a little more good than it is.
Yeah, this show pretty much like tackles almost a good stuff.
So like you have homosexuality, you have interracial stuff, you have rape, you have abortion, and like it's kind of crazy that it just goes for all of this stuff like all at once, kind of.
So this is interesting,
which is the way it should be, honestly.
Yeah, no, I agree, but here just interesting to get a tidbit of how the show handles rape. I don't know if you've gotten to this point, but it's not exactly a spoiler, but the show doesn't ever show rape happening. It just kind of says like there was rape at one point, which I actually kind of like. Not the fact that there's rape, but just how it's handled.
Yeah, it kind of avoids making it feel super exploitive. It's just like it's there, it's important.
But like I thought it worked really well. Like it's important and it matters, but you don't need to see it. That doesn't matter. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I can get behind that. You know, we forgot to talk about a character. We forgot to talk about Trish.
Oh yeah. Fuck.
We completely glazed over Trish.
Okay.
She's kind of important.
And I like Trish too. Damn. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Trish is like one of the better characters in the show.
Like but I don't know. She's a better the friend character than like Foggy is.
She also has a much better performance than Foggy. But
yes.
Yeah, no, she feels like I like that they have her like she doesn't have powers like Jessica, so I like that they have her like kind of have like her own little gym set up where she's constantly training and she's trying to be useful. She doesn't always succeed, but she is trying not to be like that character that just is there to needs saving, and she's trying to be of use to Jessica. And it kind of says a lot about her as like a character. And
she's not always successful just because of like what they're dealing with a lot of the time.
Yeah, and it's not easy to deal with it. Like there's a part where she gets taken out pretty early because she gets tased by like a cattle prod.
Yeah,
and I don't like that's not her fault. She got like snuck up on, but
yeah,
it's a lot of things where like it's they're dealing with some heavy shit and stuff that isn't easy for them to deal with. So like I don't blame her for not being as useful. Like it feels like she's trying to be useful. She isn't succeeding, but it's not exactly. It's just like how do you prepare for this?
Yeah, so I guess like I said, the show is trying to do more than Daredevil is by sort of having. You know, it's like it's led by a woman too. And so the show, I think, is trying to do more than Daredevil is just for like this really psychological overarching plot about how Jessica has to deal with what she's done and stuff like that. But I think the writing lets it down more often than not. Yeah. Well, maybe not more often than not, but it's a very noticeable amount.
Yeah, it usually it's solid, but you'll have moments where you're just like, oh, that was odd.
The dialogue in general is just, it's outright not good at times. It is consistently not as good as Daredevil's was. And I don't know, I mean, it's fine, it's passable, but like a lot of the times when they get to the monologues, the cracks really start to show.
Yeah, if it's not done by Kilgrave, it's...
Yeah. I think David Tennant is the only one who managed to do the monologues well.
Yeah.
And a lot of Jessica, like I like Jessica a lot as a character, but a lot of her wittiness is trying a bit. It feels like some of her lines are that thing like somebody says to try to get the last word in and you're just kind of like, ugh.
Yeah.
Which might be the point, but it just doesn't come off very well to me, I don't think.
It's like that one last line that's like trying to get a laugh out of the group that you're hanging out with.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Yeah.
And just no one cares.
Yeah, so like when we talked about the trailer where some of those lines were there and we're like, maybe it plays better in the show. It doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't. No. that was actually that was accurate. Yeah,
they were odd, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like episode 4 in particular is the one where it really gets me where, which not only kind of has a nothing plot of like she gets lured out somewhere and they try to kill her because she's a superhero.
Yeah.
Or she has powers and they're blaming her for the Avengers happening. But yeah, like, so she trashes their room and has to give like this monologue and it is very written and even then not written terribly well. So it just falls very flat for me.
Yeah, it's kind of where I was at too. Like it feels very generic. Like nothing she says is something that's particularly compelling. We all have our own shit. Stop putting your shit on me. And it's like, yeah. Yeah,
okay. And they're trying to lend that some weight by like having her trash the room. But again, I guess that also shows another issue I have with the show, which is that the action scenes are just not very good.
There's occasional action scenes in this show that I think are fine, but more often than not, they are not good.
They are some of them are honestly kind of bad. Like where Daredevil like seem movie quality a lot. These are TV action scenes.
Yeah, there's some, and there's one later in the series that I actually did think was pretty well done, but
You actually kind of forget Jessica has powers at times just because I think they struggle to convey
that she
that.
has super strength. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Like the only times you'll ever notice is when she's like in bar fights with like Luke and able to handle rugby players and shit like that. But a lot of times it just does feel like she's just
Really, it's just guys go flying a little further than they normally would, and that's about it. And that doesn't stand out very much.
yeah. There's a scene where they're like looking for. It's kind of like a little subplot. They're like looking for this kid that Luke needs to bring back, and there's this lone shark that's looking for him too. And they end up having a confrontation in this little like warehouse filled with weed. And that
After
scene,
backseat freestyle.
yes, yeah, backseat freestyle by Kendrick Lamar happens, yes, but that scene, it really felt like they did not know how to use her powers.
Yeah, I don't know, the direction in this show is not the greatest. I mean, I think it works okay because I don't think it's always like the action scenes aren't the focus of this in the way they were in Daredevil.
Yeah, Daredevil, they were really important, and so like whenever one happened, that was really awesome. The payoff was amazing, but in this one, it's more psychological than just straight action, so it doesn't matter as much. But
like she fucks shit up when she needs to, but most of it she doesn't go out seeking to do that really.
Yeah.
And one thing I noticed about the direction is that they have a lot of shit in front of the screen a lot.
Yeah.
Like there will always be something in frame somewhere, and I imagine that's intentional. And I think that maybe is what helped give it that more lived-in feeling. But after a while, it kind of started to annoy me a little bit.
Just I don't know.
After about 6 hours.
Yeah, I could understand that being an issue. I never really had an issue with it though.
Yeah.
But yeah, this does feel much more lived in than Daredevil. Daredevil's apartment just feels too clean.
Yeah, a bit. I guess we should probably think of like specific plot points if we're going to just be reviewing these first 6 episodes.
Yeah, I don't even know.
So the main thing was when Kilgrave announced his entrance into the show was that he kidnapped a girl. Jessica found her, and then he told that girl to kill her parents. And so then she did, and then she's locked up, and that's pretty much Jessica's motivation for not running away.
Yeah, and it's also her motivation to not try to kill Kilgrave because she wants to get Kilgrave to testify.
Yeah.
And she will not testify, but she wants to prove to the courts that Kilgrave exists so she doesn't have to, or like Hope was able to get out of prison.
I think it's a little odd that they have so much trouble believing in him.
Yeah,
and that's sort of what makes the show feel a bit disconnected from the greater superhero context.
Yeah, you haven't just... This isn't just a world where superheroes exist. This is a world where the Avengers straight up had a battle with an alien race in the city where they saw a literal green monster man, giant, or a god with a hammer, and a super soldier running around the city. But mind control, man, don't know about that one.
I mean, I guess you could argue that just because other shit happened doesn't mean they're willing to accept all of the shit. But
yeah,
still,
it feels like something that would be like they believe it, like how it gets brought up in like the same vein that you would imagine that conversation going in the real world, where someone's just like, "That's ridiculous," but it's like that shouldn't be as ridiculous to you.
Yeah, it's kind of like they're in the X-Files a bit, where Mulder has some crazy theory, and everybody's like, "Nah." I don't think it brings down the show much because I think that's sort of where it be feeling a little removed kind of works, I guess.
Also, how Luke Cage introduced him to the show, the reason that Jessica is boning him is she goes out of her, she like follows him a lot because under Kilgrave's control, she kills his wife. And so she feels really guilty about that. So she's like kind of following him, just kind of making sure, like seeing what he's doing. They end up having a conversation and they end up just kind of like forming a relationship. And she kind of feels guilty about this because she isn't telling him that she killed his wife, obviously.
Yeah. I like that storyline, honestly. Like, I think Jessica's backstory is very strong.
It's a good dynamic between the two. Like she fell for this dude, but knows like this isn't correct, and she tries to get away from him.
Yeah.
Because of that, but then like he ends up asking for help later, and then he ends up figuring out about it at the end of episode 6 and isn't too happy.
So I mean, I think that relationship is a very strong part of the show, honestly.
Yeah, no, it works. Like it doesn't feel like anyone's doing any, or like Jessica's being stupid in it. It just feels like shit happened and it looks awful.
Though, I mean, I think it does kind of rub up against, you kind of know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
So it's maybe not as interesting as the psychological horror aspect of like Kilgrave's stuff.
No, yeah. As soon as you figure out like Jessica's connection with his wife, and then you realize that they've had sex, it's like, oh,
they're going to have the I quit scene later in the show. They're probably going to make up, and that's how it's going to go.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I mean, I guess the journey there is interesting enough to offset that, I think. But anyway, any passing thoughts on these first 6 episodes?
Not really.
All right. Should we rate this at the moment, or should we hold off on that?
Let's hold off until the end. Would you recommend these first 6 episodes?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think you need to approach it with a certain set of expectations. Like, we've been comparing it to Daredevil a lot.
Yeah, don't do that.
Though, I mean, we've been doing that more on a production
universe,
standpoint rather than the type of show that they are.
Yeah, this isn't gonna be Daredevil, unfortunately. But Daredevil was a very high bar, and I wasn't really expecting this to pass that bar.
So I
was hoping it would live up to it. It didn't, but it's also not bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good show, though. I appreciate what it's attempting to do more than how well it's
doing it. And yeah, it crosses boundaries and it's interesting. And yeah, I would recommend checking it out. You might have a different opinion on us. If someone thought this show was awesome, I could understand where they were coming from. If someone thought the show was not that great, I could understand where they were coming from too. It's a show where I could understand someone having different opinions.
It's a bit of a slow burn too.
Yeah, it doesn't move super fast.
So I mean, if you're not drawn in by the characters, you're pretty much shit out of luck. But
yeah,
I was so.
Yeah, that really is kind of where the strength is that the characters are very interesting. I think you get Kilgrave in episode 2.
Yeah, and even then, I don't think they even show his face for a while.
Yeah, they kind of tease him.
Yeah,
but I would recommend checking it out. Form your own opinion. I've enjoyed it. I enjoyed my watch of it just as much as I enjoyed not as much as I enjoyed Daredevil. But yeah, I don't know. This is a good addition to the Netflix universe.
We should probably clarify. We don't know anything about the comics, so that's totally okay if you don't. Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm liking the Netflix Marvel series, the kind of darker, more adult series that they're trying to go for.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's super risky, but it feels a lot less safe than
the movies and the ABC.
I mean, I guess this one's pretty risky, honestly. This
one's pretty risky. Daredevil crossed the borders with the violence that hadn't been seen before.
But on the other hand, it's kind of just the violence that made that.
You were undercutting the violence, man. Freaking car door scene.
Yeah, but I mean, while that's kind of crazy in context, I don't believe that's as risky as
this. Okay, I'll agree with that. Yeah. That's fine.
Or even in a greater context. We just normally accept violence like that,
That's true.
Pretty much every popular video game at this point. So
plus our American society is weird. Sex is super taboo, but someone gets its spine ripped out, that's perfectly okay.
Yeah, it just feels crazy in Daredevil because of it's attached to Iron Man, Captain America, which are sort of middle PG-13.
Fairly tame action movies that kids can enjoy.
Yeah.
And both Daredevil and Jessica Jones, I don't think I would show kids these series.
Yeah, it's kind of to the point where you're very surprised that they are
in the same universe and
outright attached to it.
Yeah, and letting them do this. But yeah. I'm very pleased with it, and I'm happy that this exists and that this is a thing they're able to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm happy to see more from these shows. Like I've enjoyed these Netflix shows, and I don't know. I'm excited for Luke Cage, excited for Daredevil season 2. Can't wait for Iron Fist and the Defenders. Like I'm just happy about the whole universe right now.
For more Marvel stuff, you can watch our review of Blade or our discussion of the Captain America Civil War trailer. And if you like this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel where we'll post funny clips and full reviews from the podcast. You can also find us on Twitter and subscribe to the full podcast on iTunes or SoundCloud.